the Nutrimedical Report with Tim Alexander, Lars Sterling, and Dr. Bill Deagle. Dr. Deagle should be here in just a minute, and we'll begin without him. Some of the not-so-good news. Turkish tanks are firing into Syria. Turkey has amassed a pretty sizable armored force on the border with Syria for about a week now. And there was a shooting of a Turkish soldier, supposedly by the ISIS. Of course, the reality is Turkey has been supplying arms and material to ISIS. You're back. Okay, I started with that.
Please continue.
Yeah. I was talking about Turkish tanks have been firing into Syria. Turkey, for about a week or so now, has had a very large armored force on the border with Syria. And supposedly a Turkish soldier was killed by the ISIS forces. Of course, the reality is Turkey is one of the major supporters of ISIS and has been funneling arms and people to them for some time.
Well, where is this going? Of course, the question is, who approved Turkey to do this? It had to be it had to be NATO. It had to be the European powers that be, and the globalists, because this will bring the powers of Syria to call on their allies, Iran and Russia, and it's going to get China, and it's going to get extremely ugly, which means a crash in the world economy, a crash in the oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz and out of the Middle East. It means things are going to get so violent and dangerous that you're going to see more ISIS strikes, like this one in Chattanooga, where he was watching videos from al-Awlaki, which, of course, we were watching for years because he's been managed by us. Al-Awlaki was our asset, in a sense, for a long time. And, of course, this effect of this so-called student doing a terrorist activity, why give 127,000 Muslim visas in the last year alone under Obama and 333,000 new emigres from Muslim countries where they believe in Sharia law? Are we crazy?
Obviously, he wants to create the kind of tension in America that they have in Western Europe. Obviously, he wants to let people in who are just nutty enough to attack American people on American soil. The go here is, if you understand history, you understand who the players are. First and foremost, the globalists, and then the extreme, what I call Netanyahu Zionists. They want a general Middle Eastern war. They want World War III. Going back to Albert Pike, who was a former Confederate general in the American Civil War, a very high-level Mason, and the biggest openly acknowledged Satanist in America. A few years before the First World War, he wrote a paper that was kept in the British Library for many years. And when Rothschild got on the board of directors, the letter disappeared, but it was already a matter of historical fact. The letter spelled out 3 wars that would be necessary to bring the New World Order. The first, he described World War I quite perfectly, and how that would be used to overthrow the Tsar in Russia and the Christian forces there. He also described how the Second World War would come about, and the Third World War, he said the Mohammedans, the Muslims, would be fighting the Christians and the Jews. And, this is all by design. Every day there's more stories of atrocities, and a lot of them are fake, some are real, but they're designed to provoke the American people into saying, yes, we've got to take care of these rotten so-and-sos. They're leading us down a path of war, one more completely unnecessary war that we cannot afford. And it's just, from a human perspective, it's nuts, but it's not a human perspective that's the driving engine here. It's a satanic perspective. It's a war between God and Lucifer. And in the end, we know God will win, but I think we're in for some very, very bumpy times. Now, the commodities market globally has crashed. This happened back in 2008, shortly before the market itself crashed. But this isn't going to be 2008. This is going to be far, far worse.
Right, and I call it, I don't know how, there'll be a mega crash or a series of micro crashes. They're all going to be very painful. It'll be, how can I say, a death of 1,000 cuts. The first thing you're going to start seeing is that the 70-plus billion they gave to the Greeks is not going to stem the tide that Greeks will eventually have to take a deal from Russia and China and leave the European Union. The only way that they're going to stop that is if they actually have NATO forces come in and do a military coup or takeover of the Greek government. That is coming. I see the other PIGS nations, Ireland, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, all on their way out. And the only way for them to make a United States of Europe is to become a fascist superstate. Which, by the way, the global bankers would have no problem and compunction to not do that.
I'm not sure the European masses will go along with that, though.
They won't, and that's why it's going to get incredibly ugly. But the problem is, what will they do when, for example, the fish carts and the fish salesmen in Greece and the people making food can't sell it, so they throw it out in the streets or throw it into the water because the food is going bad because people don't have currency to buy it. What I see happening is the stock market and the commodities market in China just collapsed, 35% drop in the stock market. Many of their billionaires lost many billions of yuan or renminbi currency. And where this is all going is the globalists want this because Janet Yellen's already said, I'm going to raise the interest rates. They also have other reports that she said in the last few months, the only way we can raise the interest rates for an interbank loan is if we get rid of physical cash. Now, does that sound like the movement toward the mark of the beast and biometric currency? Absolutely. So they're going to move toward biometrics, get rid of cash, then devalue it, then bail in your pension funds and your money. So whatever money you have in the middle and upper classes, even the wealthy, are going to get massively crushed. And people say, that's not going to happen. I said, there's no other solution. It's like, as I say, I use the analogy of a trauma unit where somebody's bleeding to death. Greece is bleeding to death, and they're not going to stop the bleeding. They're just going to give more units of blood until they run out of blood.
Well, there is another solution, and that's war, the Third World War. And I think that will play a factor.
Well, that's why we were down telling people to disconnect with
the... One thing to cover the other, and then the real go here is to wipe out about 6.6 or so billion people on this planet. And then the remaining will be under thumb-down control with high technology. You'll basically, if you survive the nightmare that they intend, then you will be their slave.
You'll be in a resilient city like they talk. When these resilient people, city people, have met with Obama, this is no joke. And it's interesting. I don't know why they use the name Deagle, D-E-A-G-E-L, not D-E-A-G-L-E. But this military site has repeatedly talked about reduction in world population in America to around something like 50-some million people by 2025.
Yeah.
They keep on revising the number downward.
Maybe by then we'd have well over 325. And a population reduction, how many? 50 million?
Something like that. And it'd only be, by the way, in 12 resilient cities they talked about.
So
giant super cities.
5 out of 6 people will die in America.
And they aren't going to move to Ecuador or elsewhere. Only a small percentage
yeah.
have the money to be able to take off to another country. What the globalist plan is to kill most of us. And people say, oh, no, they can't do that. Well, the first phase 1, and even the Pope has made this, and I don't want to quote him, but top financial experts have said phase 1 of World War III is already in full swing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Already in full swing. This is not something theoretical or prophetic.
I think the early stages was a 9/11.
Exactly. That's the first stages of World War III. Economic phase. And the devaluation of currency, that's why we talk about carrot bars as a solution, a godly solution, to an evil fractional reserve debt-based currency.
Oh, okay. This is Tim Alexander, Lord Sterling. Dr. Bill will be right back. But just a little follow-up on this Turkish tanks are firing into Syria story. This is a few examples of the extent of Turkish involvement in the war on Syria. Turkey holds the political and military headquarters of the armed opposition. It hosts them on Turkish soil. Most of the political leaders are former Syrians who have not lived there for decades. Turkey provides a home base for armed opposition leaders, as quoted in Vice News video Syria, Wolves of the Valley, most of the commanders of the opposition actually live in Turkey and commute in to the fighting when necessary. Turkey's intelligence agency, the MIT, has provided its own trucks for shipping large quantities of weapons and ammunition to Syrian armed opposition groups like the ISIS. According to the court testimony, they made at least 2,000 trips into Syria as of late. Turkey is suspected of supplying the chemical weapons used in Gotha in August of 2003. Let's see, Turkey's foreign minister, top spy chief, and senior military official were secretly recorded plotting an incident to justify Turkish military strikes against Israel. A sensational recording of the meeting was publicized, exposing the plot in advance, and this prevented it from proceeding, but didn't stop it total, evidently. Turkey has provided direct aid and support to attacking insurgents, including the ISIS, when insurgents attacked Syria on the border in 2014. Turkey provided military support and ambulances for the injured fighters. Turkey shot down a Syrian jet fighter that was attacking the invading insurgents. The plane landed 7 kilometers inside Syrian territory, suggesting the Turkish claims that it was in Turkish airspace are likely untrue. And as of late, Turkey has increased its coordination with Saudi Arabia and Qatar in the matter. So the Turks are doing all they can to create a general Middle East war, and it appears that they're continuing that. And we may be headed for something really big. You have the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's their hearings. He's not sworn in yet, but he is a 4-star Marine Corps general that has basically said that if you oppose American government policies, since we're, quote, end quote, at war with terrorism, that you should be arrested and thrown into detention without right of trial, without right of appearing before a judge or having an attorney called, and with no right of appeal for as long as the so-called war continues. That's not the American way. You're back.
Tim, with your latest blog and the latest news, the items you have there, what would you say are your predictions for this fall, or even later this summer?
Not good. It's just a matter of time before the ongoing global depression reaches a cataclysmic explosion in terms of general collapse globally. Many would say it's probably already begun with the last week and a half in the People's Republic of China was with their cataclysmic collapse of their stock market, with the collapse of our currency market this week. That's one thing. The drive towards a war in the Middle East by certain factions continues unabated. I was just talking about Turkey, all of the connections that the Turkish leadership and intelligence community and military have with ISIS and other forces fighting against Syria. We have supposedly this agreement with Iran, although a major effort is being undertaken by AIPAC and Netanyahu and so forth to control, America once again in its foreign policy, and to try to get a veto-proof majority to overturn our participation in that P5+1 agreement with Iran. Time will tell how that plays out, but we are clearly jackboot marching into Armageddon. Financially, militarily, and really in social decay. You know, every day there are articles about police abuse of people. And there's this case in Texas where this young black woman, Sandra Bland, she had spoken out against police oppression, and she supposedly didn't signal when she made a lane change. Well, boy, I tell you what, they'll shoot you for that. But, I mean, talk about, it's ridiculous to pull somebody over for that, although a friend of mine got pulled over recently. She was driving on the highway, and the state police gave her a ticket for that. But, you know, at least they replied to her. This gal, the video camera in the police car, recorded the fact that she did not attack the officer. The officer threatened her, screamed at her, threatened to tase her, got her out of the car, threw her on the ground, handcuffed her. This is for the crime of not signaling to change a lane. And then she was taken to jail, and 3 days later she supposedly hung herself. The video that they released, though, had been edited, and it clearly had been edited. Cars were in one place, then they weren't there, then they were there, and so forth. And, I mean, we have a two-part problem. One part is as the society decays and becomes more immoral, you have some people that get into the police departments that have no business wearing a badge or carrying a gun. They're thugs, they're idiots, and they hide behind their power. They're also doing an extremely tough job if they're doing it right. You also have this giving to police departments all over armored vehicles and military equipment that really doesn't have a place. It's the larger cities.
Tim, to summarize, what they are is they are an occupying force brought back with PTSD and psychological
problems. And you also,
though,
you have a decay in white, brown, and black communities as the recession.
Right, so they're not tolerating it any longer. They don't have respect to the police, and the police don't respect them.
Exactly.
It goes both ways. Yeah, it goes both ways. You're right. Welcome back, and Tim, it's important to kind of focus on the negative side of what's going on, but then I would like to talk solutions. It's interesting. It says in the book of Mark that unless those days were cut off, no flesh would survive. People don't realize that the killing field starts with the economic chaos that are being brought by the chaos masters, by Obama, by the banks, by Lord Evelyn Rothschild when he sits his morning tea in London at GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, when the bankers who are creating more and more debt and actually give another 70+ billion, where only maybe less than 10% will actually go to the Greek people. Most of it will go back to the banks that created this debt monster in the first place. And the real situation
is a beta test.
Well, here's where I see this going. God is going to send solar and galactic events which will cut them off. In ancient times, if a comet passed, the warrior people stopped fighting because they knew it was like a time of change, a time of cataclysm. So besides stopping slicing each other's arms and heads off, they just stopped the battle right there on the spot. What's going to happen to planet Earth, and I can tell this, and I've had Professor McKenney on the program, and as I said, I believe with 90% of what he said. I have other sources of classified information. There are going to be solar and galactic events. To give you an example of one that I can give you a signpost that we're watching, is a large giant asteroid called Apophis, which of course goes back to the ancient Greek, the ancient Egyptian god of the destroyer, Apophis. In 2029, which is only 14 and a half years away, this little giant monster rock has a 1 to 2% chance of not just passing the Earth, of striking it or its debris field hitting us. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. Now, that's only one big rock, and there's lots of other ones. We've had ones whipped by us that are like, we had one a few months ago that was 2.5 miles across, so many what's called LDs or lunar diameters from the Earth. And if you read the book of Revelation, you actually start looking at the Bible from a scientific point of view, because remember, God is outside time and space. I believe the solar and galactic events will cut off the killing field. I think, for example, I'll give you a good example. People say, well, they're going to knock out the power grid. Well, if the power grid was knocked out, the global control would be gone, because the two pillars of the global control are communications or media, which is why they're so rife against guys like us talking about media. So we're on the top of the Red You're Dead list, okay? You and I do not have a cell with our name on it at a civil detention camp. We have a bullet with a silver marking on the side, Tim Alexander, G.D. Deagle. Kill him quick, okay? They don't have a cell for us. They have a bullet for us. Because these maniacs...
They might be able to pull that off on me, but I don't think so. I don't think
I can tell you what's going to happen. I have an army of angels protecting me and a lot of Americans. And I can tell you, if they think that they can start martial law here, I can tell you right here in Vista, California, I call Marine Town, where there's tons of Marines here in Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, ain't no way in hell they can do anything that they want to. They have a wet dream that they're going to somehow put martial law, and they're going to bring in a plague, or they're going to do this or that. Guess what? You satanic idiots are going to get destroyed. And what will happen here, whether it's your fractional reserve banking or propping up Greece or whatever, where I see this going is the fall. That's how I tell people, get in the carrot bar business, get your health under control, get away from your damn knucklehead doctors. It'll poison you. Take the minimum amount of drugs, and it will taper you off them and get you on natural things. Get yourself ready to barter with other people. Get yourself independent and protected and get out of the big cities, because the beginning of the end. Now, this is not the end of the world. It's the beginning of the end of the dark age that we've suffered for millennia under Satan and his minions here on earth. This is the beginning of the end of darkness.
Has, for trading purposes, a couple cases of Jack Daniels and the like.
Well, that's good. We're recommending in the last hour we had Pete Fettig. I'm talking about carrot bars.
Or something, and
let me finish.
You say, look, you can't hardly get this stuff, but I got a fifth of Jack Daniels if you'll fix it.
Yeah, I know. That is barterable, by the way, but something that's more barterable are going to be nutraceuticals, medical equipment, dried and dehydrated food, self-protection. Our nutraceuticals, especially things like Nutridyne and NutriDefense and other ones that are actually like our...
By the way, I'm going to call your folks up probably tomorrow and order some Nutridyne, but go ahead.
Right, and you want to have these things ready because, believe me, the globalists know that they can only get control if they do things like release a super plague, cause an economic chaos, cause a devaluation of the currency in Europe by crashing the Middle East, which they're systematically doing, because remember, ISIS is our creation, which is bizarre. I mean, on the one hand, we try to pretend, just like the Turks try to pretend, and one of their Turkish guys got killed by an ISIS guy. They give passports to 4,500 people every month or two to pass through Turkey to go to work and fight for ISIS.
Well, the daughter of the president of Turkey is assisting in hospitals for the wounded ISIS. She's supporting them. I mean, this is the lying is very much in your face and very bold, and they're basically say, "Oh, you think we're lying? So what? We don't care."
Well, you know what, Tim? There's an end to this game. The end of the game is this, and I tell people, don't engage so much as disconnect. Start getting in the carrot bar business, get your health back, get on nutraceuticals, start getting out of the big cities, start getting your financial debt situation under control, stop trying to kind of convince everybody around you that are being stupid and won't accept it, to just get with like-minded people. Stop trying to convince everybody out there that you know what's going on and they don't. Just stop. In fact, what you'll find is if you stop, if you disengage them...
Turn off the idiot news box, because it's all propaganda. Television is nothing but propaganda. Right. It's all controlled by the same people, and the same thing with mainstream media. Go to the alternative media, and there are a lot of people like myself, many do it better, that survey lots of stories, and we post stories up and make comments, and as soon as I can get all the bugs ironed out again, I'm going to be posting more stuff. But the video-wise, but the point is, you have to be prepared to take care of yourself. Your government, unfortunately, is controlled by the monsters that want you dead. There is no reason, by the way, for us to be in bad economic times. It is all man-created, deliberately man-created by the monsters that want us dead. And we are sitting here tolerating this trash that is ruining the greatest country on earth.
Well, we're being poisoned by the
plans on killing.
Well, Tim, just look at the radiotoxins from Fukushima. The government, when they saw the radiation...
Let me
finish. Tim. Tim, let me finish.
Most of the
Tim, I got news reports here I have to finish.
In the Pacific is now.
Tim, let me finish what I'm saying here, okay? I have reports from Chris that he's not here that I have to give to you. The first is TEPCO finally admitted irregular sinking in Fukushima plant, which means it's subsiding. That's great. Not good. That's only part of it. Now listen to this. He sent me a period, and this is from his buddies that are in nuclear regulatory safety around the world, that are actually consultants for the NRC and in other countries like KEPCO in Korea and South Africa and elsewhere. And the fishing industry, only on the West Coast, only one area prefecture is allowed now to distribute food to Russia. They had an embargo since 4.5 years ago. They only allowed one area because it's upwind of the rest of Japan. All the others, it's illegal to sell fish to Russia. Okay? It's illegal in China for them to buy filter feed eaters like scallops and mussels and so on from the west coast of Canada and the United States to China. So China, that exports things like melamine-laced dog food that'll kill your dog or cat, dog food, they won't take our shellfish because it's dangerous. But our government won't do testing.
Shellfish to Americans, can't we?
Right. Well, listen to this. This is even worse. I got his buddies were freaked out, and they sent him a whole pile of pictures, which I will post up, and you can see these deformed pictures of plants and so on, and other things happening in Japan. What people should realize is your government isn't going to give you an answer. When I try to get people on the program, in fact, I've been trying. Remember we talked about trying to get Rand Paul on the program? I have called, I have left messages. I say I have a major show with huge audience, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people listening to the program in America and worldwide, and I get no I have no response whatsoever, none, from Rand Paul's office, other than, hey, listen to this and find out what he's doing.
You might actually ask him a real question that requires truth.
I'm going to axe him and any other politicians some questions, and I want some damned answers. I don't want more support me and give me money and do this and that. I want to know, what are you going to do to respond to my answer about real issues? Back down to Chris Harris. And Chris, you got some amazing pictures here. Your colleague sent you pictures of deformed daisies from Fukushima blowing up around the internet, of course. Lasers being researched from use at the Fukushima reactor. Man arrested for dumping radioactive branches. This is from in Japan. And Greenpeace investigation exposes failure of Fukushima decontamination program. And then, of course, you showed documentation about the subsidence that's occurring at the plant. Let's go through all these stories and kind of expand on them, please.
Okay. Well, the first one, of course, was brought to my attention by my colleagues. They said, we don't know if these are Photoshop pictures or what, but it's a possibility that these daisies are affected by Fukushima radiation. It's possible, but that's really all I wanted to discuss on that. But the interesting stuff is, like, here's a guy who's cleaning up branches that are contaminated with radioactive stuff from Fukushima. They arrest him. And what I think it's ludicrous here. They arrest one guy who's doing some yard cleanup around the yard, and yet the heads of TEPCO are free. I mean, is that absurd or what? You get one guy who's doing something, and yet the ones who promulgated this whole mess or whatever, there's no jail time.
Well, this is like a corporate deal with a corporate Borg, I call it BORG, of a transnational corporation do a criminal activity. And what you do is you take a middle or lower manager and you kind of, if you fillet him alive or put him in prison for 30 years because he's part of it. So you have to have a sacrificial person for the evil activities of the corporation. So this is what it is.
This guy is not a good fall guy. He's not a good fall. I mean, I agree with you. They shouldn't be boiling him in oil while the rest of them were...
Well, no, what it is, it's a form of spiritual and emotional catharsis. Yeah, how dare he dump those radioactive branches? But no TEPCO officials, they're getting a pat in the back and dividends. Because remember now, TEPCO is doing financial gains like crazy because they're not just involved as an umbrella corporation managing that plant. They're managing power corporations all over Japan and other activities. They've posted giant profits during the time, 4.5 years, that this disaster has never been dealt with properly.
Right. This man is not the most evil man in the world. The ones who allowed this to start and happen, that they're certainly a significant magnitude or more evil than this guy. Why are they roaming
Okay,
about?
Here's a real question. They estimated after Chernobyl, which means wormwood, which is, of course, the biblical term wormwood, which is going to be poisoning 1/3 of the oceans of the world, which we see happening now, the radiological desertification, and I coined that term. So if you're going to quote it, quote me as the one who quoted it, because the radiological desertification, we're not just looking at pictures of daisies that might be photoshopped. We have starfish, we have the disappearing mackerel, we have no salmon run, we have the disappearance and the death of a lot of the rookeries for the various seabirds, etc., and the sea lions. This is all really happening. This is not like, oh, maybe that's prophetic and Deagle's crazy. He should be in a psychiatric facility and somebody pinning him down and injecting him because how dare he say these truths? Well, guess what? Get a life. This is happening, and it's not an imaginary thing. And the question you raise, and we calculated this out, that after Fukushima, within the first week, the average person in Seattle, Washington was breathing in and absorbing 7 hot radiological particles per day. And these are ones that embed in their lung tissue and go through their tissues of their body, and they're not going to go away. They're long-acting isotopes, not just radioiodine that's gone in 4 half-lives. So what people need to realize, there is a body count already, and there's some actuaries already did an analysis. In the first 6 months, there were an additional 45,000 dead Americans, adults, caused by Fukushima Daiichi. 45,000. And they also calculated out that the death rate in a neonatal intensive care nursery went up. So the death rate went up over 35 to 38% on the East Coast in Virginia. Pennsylvania. So what people need to start grasping here is that if you're teetering and you have fragility, whether you're a child with cancer or an adult with terminal congestive heart failure, or you're going to develop a cancer, the cancer is going to take you quick. And Fukushima is one of those, what I call the tipping rock effect. So, what people need to understand, this is a giant eugenics plan to reduce world population and destroy the biosphere, and it's in full swing right now because They're also not turning off reactors around the world, including in Switzerland, just shutting the damn things off and converting to natural gas, or we call non-fossil fuels, which they can do. Natural gas is the best. But they're not doing that, even though we even had the Obama government block a contract between a private supplier of natural gas in the western United States that could have supplied all the natural gas to convert every nuclear reactor so they wouldn't be energy poor in Japan. So the Japanese, as crazy as they are, with 500% increase in earthquakes, are now reactivating a number of reactors to the great consternation and horror of a public that if they have enough money, they're getting the heck out of Japan. They're moving to California. They're moving, if they're smart, to South America, South Africa. They're getting out of the line of fire of the radiotoxins from this mess. Now, it's not, TEPCO and Japan is just a warning sign. If there's a major conflict in 5 or 10 years' time, because this stupid deal with Iran is going to guarantee nuclear proliferation in the Middle East. It means every sawed-off country that has enough money will buy 1 or more nukes. It's not just an Iranian issue. This is a Obama stamp to say, yes, I am a Satanist. Yes, I want nuclear destruction of Earth and most humanity. Yes, I serve you, O God, Satan. That's what he said by this deal. And what people are realizing, when Obama doesn't make one statement about TEPCO and about Japan in the last 4.5 years, and we don't see one comment by scientists that should have a public platform, what we have is silence. I call it a form of silent eugenics. In other words, if you're qualified to know otherwise, whether you're a marine biologist or a nuclear radiotoxicologist, and you have creds or qualifications, if you're not speaking up, you're complicit with the crime. You are complicit with genocide, and I call omnicide, which is a killing of the entire biosphere.
Yeah, guys, this is one of many population reduction programs by the global elite that are...
This is only the forward edge, though, Tim. There's 585 plus reactors, and at the rate they're building new ones with Rosatom of Russia, they got contracts in South Africa and all over the place. We just got sealed a contract a few months ago with India for $185 billion of new reactors built with old technology that's dangerous.
The largest new reactor site is going to be the United Arab Emirates with 8 units, 8 brand new units. They're under construction right now.
Whoa!
All that oil, and they got to build nuclear plants.
They want the bomba. They caliphate the
Yep, it's the Baraka units 1 through 8.
Baraka, look at that. Even they even call it Baraka, which is lightning. The Baraka from Barack Obama. And I saw lightning fall from the heavens to the earth, and his name was Barack Hussein, the abominator of desolation of the
like
United
that?
States, the daughter of Babylon, who was the daughter of Zion, but it gave off its first life and became a whore to a satanic world of devils. That is you, O America, because your name shall be blotted out from history. A century from now, they will think, if you do not repent, that no one ever could believe really there was an America. If anybody survives this mess, they will think you're crazy if you thought there was a nation such as America that was a Christian, pro-life nation that stood up for right and good. That's how bad it is. People say,
by the way,
are you
Chris,
kidding? Are you kidding?
You said offline, the land at Fukushima is sinking, correct?
Right.
It has,
I'm talking about that because
it's uneven. It actually has sunk, and it may be continuing. This is
709 millimeters now.
Storage rods.
We know now from their admission that the structures are actually in peril. And
right. Peril means this: if they subside, the seals on those fuel rod assembly tanks tear. The fuel rod assemblies then produce a hydrogen or zirconite generated hydrogen explosion, which will cause hypercriticality and nuclear explosions, or called hypercriticality, which explode like they did at the first MOX reactor plant and send debris over 60 kilometers. And the smaller particles, which are nanoparticle vapor, will then be ejected into the troposphere to circulate the planet for centuries, if not millennia. And these radiotoxins, by the way, will make it virtually impossible, and this is what the intention is, to have a normal baby unless you submit your gametes to a laboratory and are licensed to reproduce. And people say, no, Dr. Deagle, after I see what's going on with Planned Unparenthood, they need to change it to Planned Predator. How's that? Planned Predator is a better name.
Yep.
Defund the buggers. Defund them now, for God's sake. I don't want my money going to pay to tear babies apart and make sure they're not treated with uncrunchiness to make sure their body parts are good for medical research. What should be crunchy should be the bed for these women and these people on Parenthood in their cell with a steel toilet and nothing, and not including internet or access to phone service. That's what should be uncrunchy.
You're right with God, folks.
Yeah, if you think I'm a little angry, no. I have the anger and the intellect of my ancestor Moses, and I am on a rampage.